Hello, beautiful beings. Today I have this little guest with me because he's going to be the center of my story today. Um, Earlier today, I was chatting with Scott at Scott Scorpio Sun Tarot, and I had mentioned that I didn't have a story for today yet. And he said, well, there's so much synchronicity going on around pets. Why don't you talk about that and have that be your story today? So, my story today is centering around this little guy who I've had for just less than 2 weeks. I named him Monkey because he is a climber. He climbs a lot, and so that's what I named him because he's just everywhere. He gets along very well with my cat. They are making their way and learning to really be with each other and be siblings in the household. So, as many of you may know, I lost my previous dog recently in March, and he was very old and very sick, and it was time for him to leave. And it made me very sad, like it always does. I always get very sad when my guys go away, and he came to me as a senior and in poor health, and I didn't love him any less because he was an older guy and had problems. But I just didn't get to spend very much time with him. So, a couple of months ago, I had a reading with Tangi over at Roman Biscotti, and it was just a mini reading in one of her live shows, and she told me that an animal was going to come to me and that I should just go ahead and take the animal. That there would, no matter what the circumstances were, if it seemed like it wasn't a good idea, whatever, I should go ahead and just take the animal. And so I thought, okay. And then I had a reading with Mark Spirit Whisperer and Debbie Freebird Spirit, and about my dog that I had lost, and that he was wanting to come back, and that if I wanted to tell him out loud that it was okay for him to come back, that I could do that and he could come back, and it wouldn't necessarily matter what age the dog was, or even a dog. That Mark said he didn't know how it is, but it's possible, and I think he's probably right. It is possible. So I started looking for a little companion. Now, I used my pendulum to help me look, and as it started to get closer to the time the pendulum said that I would find my little companion, I started to look more intently, and I started to branch out a little bit. I started close near where I live, and then started to branch out in a website, a pet finder website. And so one day I was looking, and I looked at a little dog, a picture and the description, and tried to go back into the search engine part, and that went to the last page. Out of 23 pages, I was on page 1, and it went to page 23. So I reloaded it and looked at a different little dog and went back to the search engine, and it went to the last page again. So after 2 or 3 times of this, I got my pendulum out and I asked my pendulum, my guides, was the dog I was looking for on this last page? And I got a yes. So I narrowed it down to 2 dogs on that page that it could be that was appropriate for where I live and the size of pet that I can manage and take care of and what's allowed in my apartments, and looking for a younger dog. And I got 2 dogs. So this was the first one I looked at, and I asked my pendulum, is this the right dog? And the pendulum said yes. So I looked at the other dog and I asked, was that the right dog? And the pendulum said no. So I went back and pulled up all the information on this dog. And he was an adorable little thing. Someone saw him be thrown out of a car window onto the street, and he was picked up and taken to the local animal shelter about 70 miles from where I live. And this rescue that was advertising him picked him up and took him for, he had some kennel cough, and they got that cleared up. He had some stomach issues, they got that cleared up. And he ended up staying at this rescue with a foster in a home with lots of other pets and kids too, I think, and cats. And apparently, if anyone did inquire about him, they either weren't a right fit or there was some reason that he ended up staying there for a few months and he wasn't placed right away. So I put in an inquiry, and the next day a lady from the rescue called me and said that, now I thought she said we've had lots of inquiries about this dog, who they were calling Grant. We've had lots of inquiries about Grant. And that's what I thought she said. But in retrospect, I believe she said we haven't had many inquiries about Grant. So she interviewed me, and I just told her all the things that she asked. You know, I have a regular veterinarian. I am friends with people who either run pet rescue or foster pets, that all of my pets have been rescued in the past 2 or 3 decades, probably longer than that. But all of my pets have been rescued, and I have credentials and references with many of the places that I have adopted through. And I haven't used the same rescue each time. And the people I'm friends with involved with rescues, I was not able to adopt one of their pets, but I became friends with the people who ran the rescue. So I gave her all my information, and I told her about where I live in an apartment, and that he would be an inside dog, and that he would never go outside without me or off leash, that I have harnesses, that I trust harnesses more than I do collars, and all the basic stuff that I use positive reinforcement when training. And I've never given up on a dog. I've never sent a dog back for any reason. That I continued to work with them until we got through the problem, whatever it was. So she said, well, you sound like someone that we'd like to have adopt this little dog. Can we do a meet and greet? And she started to explain their procedure, and it takes about 2 weeks. They do one meeting with everybody in the family. Then they do a home visit, and then they do um, paperwork and check all of your references and credentials, and uh, they generally do a fairly thorough um, reference workup, and they all do. That's expected. So I started to tell her that because of the distance, that I wouldn't be able to do it right away. I wouldn't be able to come to meet him probably for at least a week. That it would be a little bit of time before I could make arrangements to come that far away from home. And so she said, well, what about if I bring him to you? So I started giving her times when my partner and I would both be home. And I said, if he doesn't have to be there for the meeting, it could be, anytime during the day would be fine, because he doesn't get home from work until later in the evening. And she said, well, I'll just bring him today. If that's okay, I can bring him today. And this was, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. And she said, I can bring him and have him there around 2 in the afternoon. It'll take me about an hour and a half to drive to get there. So then we can see how he does, and then see what you think. And I said, well, that would be fine for the, I'm thinking the meeting. And she said, no, if you want him and you get along together, then I will just leave him. And we can do the paperwork later. And so I said, okay. So I made arrangements to take care of the adoption fee, and came home and waited until she got back, or until she got here. And she was right on time, right around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She came, and her mother had come with her, so she didn't have to drive alone. And he was sitting on her in the driver's seat with her, and most adorable little guy, but scared to death. And so she brought him in, brought all of his records, his his heartworm medication, everything that he needed, some food so that his stomach wouldn't be upset, to change food and all of that, until I could get what he needed from the pet supply place. And so she was here about 10 minutes, and then she left. He literally fell in my lap. And at first he was afraid, so I gave him his space. I let him just acclimate himself to the place. He immediately found, I have an elevated dog bed with a big cushion on it. He found that and made himself comfortable on it, and found a couple of toys and cuddled with them, and I gave him his space. And by the next day he was letting me approach him without too much fuss. And by the second day, he was a Velcro dog. He was with me all day, all night. He's glued to me. Now, he's still very fearful, but he's perfectly at home in my home. He is playing with the cat, and they have made friends now. I think a lot of what the cat is doing is he is still irritated with me. He's angry with me, but he is not angry at this dog. He likes having a playmate. And this dog is perfectly happy where he is. As you can see, he's trying to go to sleep. So, that was all synchronicity. It was a thing that was meant to be. I spoke it into the universe that I wanted a little companion. Now, is he the little companion I thought I was going to get? Is he the reincarnation of the dog that I had, that I was hoping to spend more time with? No, he's not. That dog is going to come back to me along with another, and it will be a little while. But for now, this is the dog that I was supposed to have. And the universe worked it out so that not only did I find the right dog, not only was I directed to the right dog, and just by making an inquiry about the right dog, the people in charge of placing him decided almost immediately that I was the right person to take him. But he was literally dropped in my lap. I didn't have to even go across the street. All I had to do was wait, and he came to me. Now, I don't know what's in store for us, but I know that we're supposed to be together. He is supposed to be my dog, and I am supposed to be his companion. I don't know what that means. That's an adventure yet to happen. But up to this point in the story, what I have learned is that when you trust in the universe, or your higher power, or your spirit team, or your deities, whoever you look to for guidance, that the angels, whoever you look to, if you turn it over to them, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, but whatever it is, you turn it over to them, they will see that it happens. All you have to do is ask. All you have to do is speak it into the universe, and it will become. That's the lesson I learned. I already knew it, but this just really reinforced the lesson. Now I'm going to make him a little bit upset. I'm going to put him down and let him go and lay down for a minute because I want to consult my guides and my spirit team, my entire spirit team, and ask, what do they want us to know about this situation? What do I need to convey in this short video about trusting in the universe, and that if you follow the synchronicities and pay attention and act on things, knowing that they're not coincidences, that they're being set in front of you as an absolute guide, then what do they want us to know about that? So I decided today to use the Literary Witch's Oracle, and I'm going to pull 3 cards. Just did. And what did I get that I can't read? I got, the first thing I got was a lantern. Guidance, instinct, trust. Follow the light. Yumiko Kurohashi represents transformation in this deck, and that can be masks, becoming, or play. And I think it's becoming transformation. So if you follow the light, you can be transformed. And it ends with Janet Frame, who represents belonging. Now, her keywords say being at home, being a stranger, and knowing yourself. So, if you're belonging, you're being all those things. You can be at home, you can be a stranger, and you know yourself. And to do that, you transform by trusting and following the light. So, beloved beings, absolutely follow that light. Look for those signs and follow them, because they are a sign from the universe. Until next time, beautiful beings.